No, yesterday. Good morning from all of us here at Hubbard's Marina. Another beautiful day inside John's Pass. Another gorgeous morning, devoid of any red tide coffin issues. We're not gagging. Our eyes aren't burning. Throats aren't burning. Despite what you might hear, we're not freaking out inside John's Pass. There is some red tide local. There's some red tide in the area all year, every year. It is a naturally occurring organism. Red tide occurs in salt water only. The blue-green algae issues only are a freshwater issue. So again, salt water is red tide, blue-green algae is in freshwater. A lot of people yesterday were freaking out saying that we're trying to hide the truth and hide the news and all this stuff, and that Governor Rick Scott causes red tide. Well, red tide, again, is a naturally occurring organism that is present in the Gulf in low levels all year, every year. Again, natural. It's just like the fish we have in the Gulf. So no one causes a red tide, except for maybe God, because he created all the stuff in the Gulf. But so long story short, red tide is not a man-made issue. It can be exacerbated by a man-made issue, and I think the blue-green algae issues we have in Lake Okeechobee definitely help fuel the red tide. That nutrient water getting outflowed out of the Caloosahatchee and St. Lucie from Lake Okeechobee definitely has some fueling type effects on red tide, in my opinion, but that hasn't been proven or irremarkably said by any type of reputable science, but there is definitely a correlation between the two. But long story short, yesterday's video was not about saying there's no red tide. It's not about saying there's no dead fish, because in the video yesterday we literally pointed out the dead fish, and we literally said red tide is here all the time. Right now we do have some minimal red tide inside and around John's Pass and along our coast, but as you can see, we still have boats going out, we still have fish coming in. A lot of fishing is going on here at John's Pass. We have people fishing from the jetties, the beaches. We have people fishing offshore, and we're able to find clear water offshore. We do have some really strong new moon tides right now, so we have a strong incoming tide. It's literally 2.5 feet above sea level, so a nice strong high tide, and that's pushed a lot of that fish kill that was hanging along our coast into the bay. Now we've had a strong outgoing tide, and you can see all the stuff outflowing here. You can see in that pole the tidal rip, and this morning some of that fish that got pushed into the bay is now getting pushed back out, and I would imagine on the next hard incoming tide that we have today, I'd imagine we're going to see some more of that fish kill coming in the pass. But this morning up and down Madeira Beach, you don't smell any dead fish, and again, you can't smell red tide, you can only smell the symptoms, which is that dead fish. And then if red tide was really bad, the pass behind me here would be filled with dead fish, and I wouldn't be able to talk to you. I'd be coughing, gagging, my eyes would be burning. So it's just comical to me how the reactions from yesterday's video with people calling me a liar and part of the problem, and I'm trying to hide the truth, when the truth of the matter is behind me. This is a live video. I didn't edit this. There's not much going on here inside John's Pass except for a beautiful sunrise view, and the photos we have yesterday, Dusty Peterson from the Smokey and Dusty show literally posted a video that was taken from a camera on a fishing line. You can see all the fish. You can watch us catch fish on that video. Again, unedited, just fish catching video. Smokey is right here. Smokey's gonna talk to you guys about what he saw yesterday on the half-day trip, and Smokey's gonna tell us a little bit more about what he saw yesterday. Smokey, come on. Don't run away from it, Smoke. Come on, man.
What do you want to know?
How was it yesterday?
We caught a lot of fish yesterday. We actually caught some good sized ones. We went out to 55 feet. Right before that, there was some dirty water. It got really quick. It kind of moves in clouds.
Yeah, it's patchy. A lot of people are saying, some local guys, like a local charter captain in Hernando Beach, said that it's dead all the way out to 25 miles.
No.
That's not true at all.
No, that's not true. We were actually taking videos yesterday. Were you just saying that? We
Yeah.
were taking videos yesterday. We had a little camera that goes down on your line. And the guy was catching them. Every time he dropped his line down, he was catching nice fish.
Yeah,
So,
and we'll post that video later today. So literally we have video from about 9 to 10 miles of fish on the bottom chewing. And yesterday it was like 2 to 3 miles out, it cleared up, and it was Clearwater up until about 7 miles, and then 7 to 10 miles it was a little dirty.
And then it cleared right up.
And cleared right up again.
Yep.
So it's like big clouds moving around out there.
Yep.
Gotcha. So right there, guys, not coming from me, coming from someone else. So if I'm the liar, I guess everybody's lying here. But this is what we're actually seeing, guys. This isn't flying around in a helicopter showing a tidal rip. This is actual real world experience. So you can see the video on the Smokey and Dusty page of us catching fish yesterday. You can see behind me, it's a beautiful view. You can hear my voice. I'm not coughing, gagging, or anything like that. So we don't have the crazy respiratory issues. Our pass isn't full of dead fish. There is some dead fish around. There's definitely some dead fish floating on the way out. And I'd imagine on the strong incoming tide today that we have from this new moon, I'd imagine some more dead fish are going to come in. But again, this is very minimal. When you compare it to 2005, 2014, those were some serious red tides in our area. Again, this is only local to Johns Pass. Down south, Lee County area, Sarasota County south, to almost the Everglades, to Marco Island area. This was a really bad red tide. But in our area, this past weekend was the first time we really saw any sizable amount of fish kill come into Johns Pass. So it's been around the last couple days, and it started around Saturday, the day before that new moon. And that new moon tide has been pushing them in and then sucking them back out. So a lot can change. All it took was a new moon to push some of this into the bay. But these clouds are moving around in patches along the Gulf. Red tide is a living, naturally occurring organism that can swim, and it is manipulated by the currents. It seems like a lot of it's moving to the north. Yesterday, our Shell Key Ferry captain and crew came in last night around 5:30, 6 o'clock after I did that last video, and they were talking about how Shell Key was beautiful. Clear water, no dead fish smell, and nice clean water around Shell Key. And I heard that from a few people about Fort DeSoto as well. So just to our south in Pinellas County, it's clearing up and getting nicer. And everything we see seems to be moving north. Around Reddington Pier area, it gets pretty bad to our north. So it is very spotty. Some areas will be clear, some areas won't be clear. And one day this area that was clear the day before might get dirty. So it's moving around. It's a moving target. It's dynamic. And every day we're going to keep updating you. But long story short here, guys, inside Johns Pass right now, we don't have the coughing. We don't have the respiratory issues. The pass isn't full of dead fish. There is some dead fish, but for the most part, they've floated out. I'll show you here in the water so no one calls me a liar again. We've got one dead fish, a bunch of leaves. Water's pretty dark right now from all the tide. There's another dead fish. Along the seawall, there's a big group of dead fish, but you can see there, big school of minnows. That's not rain, that's small glass minnows that wouldn't be surviving if the red tide was real bad. We got bunch of dirty water from the rain. Again, when the fresh water, there's some dead fish caught in the tide. So all clear water for the most part inside the pass, but that tide has captured some of these fish and trapped them along the seawall. And today that hard outbound tide should flow most of that out. But 99% of the pass you can see is pretty much clear. So there are some dead fish around, but long story short is it's still beautiful out here. You can still breathe fine. A lot of people are saying as well that the news was saying that fish are unsafe to eat. Fish are safe to eat. That's straight from the FWC. Florida Fish and Wildlife and Florida Wildlife Research Institute have all confirmed that fish are safe to consume as long as you're consuming the muscle of the fish and not the guts. Shellfish, oysters, clams, shrimp, those are not safe to consume during this red tide. But the fish, the fillet, the muscle from the fish is safe and is not going to cause human harm when consumed. Now, swimming, so safe out here. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't swim where you see the dead fish, and I understand that. That makes perfect sense. But swimming in a red tide is safe. It can cause skin irritation, but you rinse it off with fresh water and it's good. And I swam in a lot worse back in 2005. I had to clean up the beaches because I had been, let's just say I was being punished by my parents. That was what, 13 years ago? So I was 13 or 14 years old back then, and that was a bad red tide. The pass was choked with dead fish. I couldn't stand here and talk to you during that 2005 red tide because it was so bad. Coughing, sneezing, eyes burning, nose running. But I was out on the beach every day picking up dead fish. My dad would make me swim out and get the bigger fish floating by. So I was in and out of the water all day without gloves, without eye protection, without a mask. And 14 years later, 13 years later, I'm still alive. And you can see behind me all these boats going out there to go fishing. We wouldn't be going out fishing unless we're catching fish. We're not in the fishing business, we're in the catching business. And there's a lot of misconceptions, basically, guys. So check out the videos. In the comments, I'm gonna drop that big, huge comment block of all the common red tide misconceptions, along with the thing from FWC talking about consuming fish in a red tide and swimming during a red tide, with all the facts from Florida Fish and Wildlife, not the rumors, opinion, and hearsay you're seeing on social media. Also, today we have the red grouper stock assessment starting up. So all day today, I'll be at the CDAR stock assessment for red grouper, and hopefully we'll be able to get some good information on red grouper, and the council next year will have some good information to make management decisions on. But we'll update you about the red grouper stock assessment. We'll keep you up to date with the red tide issues going on here inside Johns Pass and around Madeira Beach. There's definitely red tide in the area. It's a naturally occurring organism that's here almost all the time. Right now it has bloomed along the coast. There are random blooms offshore and along the coast, and it is killing some fish, but it's very minimal, and for the most part we're not really seeing too much of it. But on a strong incoming tide, we'll see some of those dead fish, and a strong outbound tide, some of those dead fish will kind of whirlpool and get stuck along the seawalls. But the county is doing a really good job of cleaning it up. Madeira Beach Public Works is doing an awesome job. City of Madeira Beach Public Works Department has been on top of this from the start. So it's really cool to see everybody working together and prevent the buildup of these dead fish that causes that dead fish smell. Again, not a red tide smell. Can't smell red tide. You can smell the dead fish, which is a red tide symptom though. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you enjoyed this beautiful sunrise behind me. Remember, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy. Don't forget about our half-price fishing trips going on right now. You can go on a 5-hour half day for $27.50. We'll see you soon inside Johns Pass. Remember, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy.